This past weekend has been really busy for the Texas Longhorns with the highs and lows. Women's basketball continued their dominance, advancing to the Elite Eight after a 76-54 victory against Kentucky, while the men's basketball team unfortunately fell short to number 2 Purdue. Texas baseball had their first SEC series sweep of the season in the Red River Rivalry. Texas softball clinches a series win in the Lone Star Showdown, and MLB opening day kicked off with the Yankees taking on the Giants. All of this and more on College Press Box. Good evening and welcome back to College Press Box. I'm Trinitee Jason, hosting with Joaquin Alvarez tonight. Before we get started, we wanted to remind you that College Press Box is brought to you by Cap Metro, Austin's transit system. We connect you to work, school, play, and everywhere in between. Plan your ride this weekend to this weekend's game at capmetro.org. Texas fans will have to wait until April 23rd for the first round of the NFL Draft to see where their favorite Longhorns end up. The clock hits 12 and the story for Texas men's basketball has ended. As for women's basketball, they have advanced to the Elite Eight, and next they will face number 2 Michigan. Let's send it over to Joaquin and Aiden to talk more about the NCAA tournament.
Thanks, Trinity. After going 1-4 in the last 5 regular season games and barely squeaking into March Madness after a first 4 win, Texas men's basketball had danced all the way to the Sweet 16. And on the flip side, Texas women's basketball punched their ticket to an Elite Eight appearance versus the Michigan Wolverines. I'm here with Aiden Erbach to break down the Longhorns tournament runs and futures for both the men's and women's basketball teams. Great to have you with us, Aiden. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, Joaquin. Thanks for asking. I'm kind of a little puzzled, especially what's going on in men's side basketball with Texas basketball in their late success with their run.
Absolutely. This tournament delivered Cinderella runs and statement upsets like no other, and none bigger than Sean Miller's Texas squad. From a last-second dagger in Dayton to a West Coast-style Sweet 16 feature, taking down NC State, BYU, and Gonzaga before a heartbreaking loss to Purdue. So, Aiden, what went wrong for the Longhorns Thursday night in San Jose, and what should fans look out for heading into a still relatively new Sean Miller era?
Well, Joaquin, I just want to say, for this full disclosure, I didn't think this team was even going to have a chance of making a shot at this tournament in the first place, as I thought, 2 weeks ago when they lost a 15-seed Ole Miss in the SEC tournament, I thought that was pretty evident that they were going to go on a Southwest Economy Plus ticket back home to Austin, which is what they deserve. But still, this team was determined to make a statement, and they did so, as you mentioned, beating those prolific teams such as BYU and Gonzaga. However, I think the underlying factor that we saw that Texas couldn't get on that stretch and beat Purdue on that run came down to free throw shooting and conceding late fouls. I mean, Texas struggled with that all season. When you get down to these later stages of the tournament, playing evenly matched teams like we saw against Purdue last Thursday, it's going to come down to the wire. Making your free throws and simply not fouling late is going to be paramount. Purdue were more successful than the Horns in that category as they went to the cherry strike 20 times compared to Texas's 15 and shot 75%, while the Horns shot a wobbly 53. This was also more shown in the second half, as 13 of the Oilers' points came from the line, while Texas only saw 7. In addition, Texas had a huge problem fouling late during the regular season, and that came back to haunt them in this fixture, as last Thursday, as 2 of their starters, Cam Heide and Matsis Vokatitis, had to miss valuable minutes due to being in foul trouble. But to answer that second part of your question, this was a great first year for Sean Miller's crew that saw a lot of new faces, a lot of new SEC action, and besides the team losing Trayvon Mark and Jordan Pope, who were both critical in the team's run to the Sweet 16, Texas is expected to retain a lot of their players, including key front court pieces like Matas Vokatitis, as I mentioned, and Nick Cody, along with experienced guards like Simeon Wilcher, who came from St. John's last year, and even Cam Heide as well from Purdue. Arguably their best player and their most consistent player, Dalen Swain from declaring they could be stealing him from the NBA draft, a guy who had an excellent newcomer season in the SEC after playing 2 seasons with Miller at Xavier. The one thing I like to stress on is Texas, they have to do a better job making more of a presence in the portal. They were top 25 in the portal. They need to be closer to that top 5 seed, as you see with Michigan and Iowa, some of these bigger teams, St. John's, who made bigger runs, even bigger runs than Texas. They have to be more receptive in the bubble as it comes in a couple months.
I like what you said about placing more emphasis on the transfer portal. I think that's sort of been the new wave in basketball and has been a huge success for programs like Michigan and Iowa who have made deep runs in the tournament. So it'll be interesting to see how Texas figures it out in the next couple of months. But moving on to the women's side, Texas has found overwhelming success all season, winning the SEC tournament in Greenville a couple of weeks ago to now have a great success in the dance. What for you has been the keys to victories in the Horns' stifling tournament success?
Well, Joaquin, I know every time I ask Vic Schaefer and his players that question, they always going to point to their defense, saying it's their keys to their identity. But I think their scoring has been the difference here in these last 3 rounds that they played in, specifically in their front court, averaging around 42 points in the paint. Madison Booker and Jordan Lee have been the keys to success for the Longhorns with their scoring, especially on the interior. So I think it's UT's ability to score and get clean looks. It's what's driving them and serving them well as they face perennial powerhouses like UCLA, South Carolina, and UConn, all of whom are 1 seeds and are still in the tournament as we approach Final Four time.
Touching on those teams that you mentioned, UConn, UCLA, South Carolina, whom, as you put it, are still in the dance. Now, Aiden, what do the Longhorns have to do as they face at least 2 of those teams in the Final Four?
Well, Joaquin, good news for the Texas Longhorns and their faithful. The Texas Longhorns have already played 2 of those teams with South Carolina and UCLA earlier in the season, so they have a little freshing prepare with experience in those 2 fixtures. But I think defense will be the determining factor in how well the Longhorns perform against these blue blood programs, as all 3 of our top 10 in scoring and literally 1, 2, and 3 in field goal percentage. Now the Longhorns pride themselves on how well they defend, specifically their scoring defense and how they can get after you winning the rebound battle. Categories the team ranks top 20 in. And I think, of course, the Horns have done a great job over the years, and I think if they want to continue to do it, they have to specifically force those turnovers like we saw in the tournament and continue to win the rebound battle. I think that will be the key going on as you mentioned, they either face South Carolina, UCLA, or UConn. I think that will be the difference matcher. And I think toughness will be the key word. I think the toughest team wins the battle, as Vic Schaefer says, and I think that will be the key if they want to win their first NCAA tournament since 1986.
Well, only time will tell if the Longhorns will be able to keep up their success in the NCAA tournament. Thanks for joining us, Aiden, and back to you at the desk, Trinity.
Solid work, Aiden and Joaquin. When College Press Box returns, we will take a look into the Texas baseball's dominant weekend in the Red River Rivalry and an unexpected end to Texas softball's 29-game win streak after clinching a series win in the Lone Star Showdown. Stay tuned, you don't want to miss it.
Welcome back to College Press Box. This past weekend, Texas softball started their Lone Star Showdown series against Texas A&M and secured a series victory. Texas baseball also got a taste of rivalry action as they played in the Red River Rivalry against the Oklahoma Sooners here in Austin, Texas, taking down Oklahoma in sweeping fashion. Here's Gabriel Silva on his coverage of the game.
It was rivalry weekend here in Austin, Texas, as number 2 Texas softball took on the number 15 ranked Texas A&M Aggies, and also at the dish, the number 2 ranked Texas Longhorns took on the number 8 ranked Oklahoma Sooners in what was a thrilling Saturday night across I-35.
Starting off with Texas softball, who were looking to clinch the series win against in-state rival Texas A&M after a dramatic Friday night walk-off win. Head coach Mike White sent freshman Hannah Wells to the circle to try and subdue an Aggie offense that scored 8 runs the night before. Wells ran into some trouble in the first inning, but a sacrifice fly out to left ended up resulting in 2 outs as J.C. Nichols back-picked the runner at third to get out of the inning. Texas responded in the bottom half of the inning with the first 4 hitters reaching base and 2 runs coming across the plate. The score stayed the same until Texas A&M took the lead on a 2-out RBI single from Michaela Ward. In the bottom of the third with 2 outs, Texas's all-time home run leader Reese Atwood launched the ball way over the left field fence to give Texas the lead, and they would hang on to win and secure the series against the Aggies.
After softball's 3-2 win, fans were able to cross Kamal Street and come to the dish to watch Texas baseball try to complete the sweep against rival Oklahoma.
All-American Dylan Volantis took the mound for the Longhorns, but he ran into some trouble early as he gave up 3 runs in the first 3 innings of the game. Texas would have to rally to come from behind and win just like they did Friday night, and Notre Dame transfer Carson Tinney started the rally with a 2-run home run in the bottom of the 3rd inning. Volantis would settle in and cruise through the rest of his outing, only allowing 1 more run in 5 2/3 innings of work. Texas would rally in the 7th inning with an RBI single from Ethan Mendoza to bring the Longhorns within 1 run. And then in the bottom of the 8th inning, Adrian Rodriguez drove in Carson Tenney to tie the game up at 4, and the Longhorns were going to need another walk-off win just like they did the night before. And that's exactly what they got, when after Oklahoma walked the bases loaded in the 10th, first baseman Casey Borba hit a single up the middle to score the winning run and give Texas their second walk-off win in as many days.
Texas baseball with another thrilling win here at Dish Falk Field on Saturday night. Now the Longhorns look forward to playing against the Texas State Bobcats here at home on Tuesday night. For TSTV Sports, from the Dish, I'm Gabriel Silva.
Great work, Gabriel. Always a good weekend on the 40 when 2 rivals lose the series. Now, let's send it to Trinity and Brynlie for more.
Welcome back. I'm here with Brynlie to talk about a crazy weekend for Texas baseball and softball. Welcome to the show, Brynlie. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Trinity. How are you today?
I am doing great as well. So, Texas baseball and softball both had an incredible weekend. Can you recap both of those series for us?
Absolutely. It was a weekend full of rivalries, walk-offs, and series wins for both Texas softball and baseball. Let's start off by talking softball. The #1 team in the nation, the Texas Longhorns, took on Texas A&M, and this series looked a little different from the previous ones they have played in. It is no secret that the Longhorns have been winning many games easily, with their last 4 games ending in a run roll. The Aggies gave the Longhorns a little bit more of a challenge this week as SEC play is finally in full swing. In all 3 games of the series, the Aggies struck early and got on the board. The standout for Game 1 of the series easily goes to Viviana Martinez. At the plate, Martinez went for 2 home runs, 2 doubles, 4 RBIs, and 3 runs scored. This game a nail-biter all the way until the bottom of the 7th inning when Martinez came in clutch and hit a double. Next up to bat was Reese Atwood, who was intentionally walked because she is not someone you want to see when the game is this close. The bases eventually became loaded with no outs. Freshman Hannah Wells was able to drive in a ball that brought Viviana Martinez to the home plate for the walk-off win. Reese Atwood was the star of Game 2 as she hit yet another home run and 2 RBI. The score was 3-2 by the bottom of the 3rd, and freshman right-handed pitcher Hannah Wells was able to get yet another win under her belt and hold the Aggies to just 2 runs. This win helped the Longhorns clinch the series victory and keep the Lone Star Showdown trophy in Austin. The Longhorns fell short to the Aggies for Game 3 of the series with a score of 7-9, giving Texas only their 2nd loss of the season.
This team truly shines every game they play. Actually, as of this morning, the Texas softball team was ranked #1 for the 2nd week in a row. Now let's talk about baseball. Brynlie, can you recap the series sweep the Longhorns had against the Oklahoma Sooners?
This series sweep was everything for Longhorns fans. This was the first sweep against the Sooners in 12 years, and the Longhorns did it in incredible and competitive fashion. For Game 1, the Longhorns held complete control the whole game. The thing that sticks out to me the most about this team is how incredible they are at bat. Between Seton Hall transfer Aiden Robbins, catcher Carson Tenney, and basically everyone else in the hitting lineup, the Longhorns seem to be one of the most dominating teams in the nation at bat, and this showed Thursday night. The Longhorns were able to beat the Sooners in a 14-0 win, which became the largest shutout in Red River rivalry history. Friday night was a little different. Oklahoma scored early, and the Longhorns were pretty quiet until the bottom of the 7th. The Texas Longhorns drew up 4 walks, and this was how the Oklahoma bullpen looked for the remainder of the innings. In the bottom of the 10th, Ethan Mendoza hits a triple to be in scoring position. Pinch hitter Ashton Larson hits a beautiful single to walk it off in the bottom of the 10th. Game 3 was very similar to Game 2. Oklahoma struck early, then Carson Tenney hit a solo home run to get the Longhorns on the board. Adrian Rodriguez hit a ground out in the bottom of the 8th to even the score to 4-4. This game once again went to 10 innings when Casey Borba went to the plate with the bases loaded and 2 outs. Borba singled up to the middle to not only get the walk-off win, but a series sweep for the Texas Longhorns.
It must feel good to be a Longhorn fan right now between these 2 series dubs. What do you see in the future for both of these teams?
If both of these teams keep performing just as they are, the wins will keep stacking up. For Texas softball, they are finally ranked #1 and are sitting in a comfortable position at the top. SEC play isn't supposed to be easy, and their series down in Tuscaloosa against Alabama this week won't be. But if Reese Atwood, Tegan Caban, and Hannah Wells keep performing at their best, I see plenty of more series dubs in their future. As for baseball, it is hard to think that we'll see them at the #1 spot in the near future, as UCLA is performing just as dominant. The Longhorns travel to South Carolina this weekend in what should be a series win for the Longhorns. But if we want to take a deep look into the future, Trinity, I can definitely see this baseball team being one of the Omaha 8.
Well, that'll do it from here. Great analysis, and thanks for coming on the show, Brynlie. Now back to you at the desk, Joaquin.
Thank you, Brynlie and Trinity. When College Press Box returns, we will recap MLB opening day as a new season is underway. Stay with us.
Welcome back to College Press Box. Hopes are high and records are set 0-0 as the opening day of the MLB has started with the Yankees win over the Giants to the Blue Jays victory over the A's. Let's go to Joaquin and Tyler to find out more about MLB opening day.
Thanks, Trinity. I'm here today with Tyler Strempel, who's here to dive into the opening week of Major League Baseball. How are you doing, Tyler?
I'm doing great. I'm so happy that baseball's back. It's the best time of the year. It's the most angry time of the year for me. But I'm excited to get into a really jam-packed opening week.
All right, let's get into it. The major rule change that everyone has been talking about has arrived. Automatic ball strike challenges. During the first week of the season, what have you seen of the system and how has it turned out?
Well, the major consensus is that the system works. We had first usage of the system on opening night, but Netflix didn't want to show it to us. But the biggest story about ABS was umpire C.B. Buckner's 6 overturned calls in last Saturday's Reds-Red Sox matchup. Eugenio Suarez actually had 2 calls overturned by the system consecutively. If you're not familiar, this system uses special cameras and tracking to determine whether or not a ball is inside of a batter's strike zone. Each team has 2 challenges per game, which can either be initiated by a batter or pitcher. If a team wins the challenge, they keep it, which is why Cincinnati was able to overturn 6 calls with 8 attempts. And we're definitely going to see this used against umpires who have reputations for inconsistent strike zones like C.B. Buckner. And it's going to be fun to see how it goes over. But the sentiment is pretty heavily positive over the system.
It'll be interesting to see how the ABS system turns out over the course of the full MLB season for sure. Now, onto new faces in new places. How have some of the biggest offseason movers fared with their new teams so far?
Yeah, I think we have to start with the biggest offseason signing, Kyle Tucker, over to the Dodgers, whose opening week started slow. He sits at a 182 average, no home runs, only 2 RBIs. Pretty early, not great. A lot of season left, but not a good start for the $240 million man. But in the same dugout, closer Edwin Diaz has the trumpets playing in Los Angeles as well, and it has already been working. He's got 2 saves, no runs scored, only 2 innings, but a pretty good start. Bo Bichette, or as the Mets crowd did to him this weekend, Boo Bichette, newly minted New York Met, has been abysmal with a .071 average or 1 hit and 14 at-bats, no home runs, 1 RBI. Alex Bregman, now playing at Wrigley for the Cubs, has had a good start with 2 home runs, 2 RBI, .231 average, not great, not terrible for this part of the season, but Edwin Diaz has probably had the best performance of an offseason signing. Pretty slow overall for these stars. We're waiting to see a big offseason newsmaker break out in a big way.
It'll be real fun the whole season to watch these stars play. So what are some big stories fans should keep an eye on from this opening weekend?
Big storylines have popped up for sure. One major one was Paul Skeens' disastrous opening day, allowing 5 runs in .2 innings, beginning the year with a 67.5 ERA. I looked this up. It's going to take 22 consecutive scoreless innings for him to get back to a sub-2 ERA. And while it may be that O'Neal Cruz's failure to remember how to field was a pretty big cause, it's a bad start for the Pirates. But let's go over to Anaheim, where we've traveled to the early 2010s for a bit, as Mike Trout is on fire to start the season. He's hitting .462, 2 towering home runs and 3 RBI, against an Astros team that at the very least isn't terrible. Going to the Bronx and LA, things are normal. They're both 3-0, but the Yankees' rotation has been lights out, which bodes well as they wait to get Garrett Cole and Carlos Rodon back into their rotation in mid to late April. So we're going to keep watching, see what or who breaks out or breaks down, but it's been a pretty fun start so far to the 2026 season.
Thanks, Tyler, for the Major League breakdown. Now back to you at the desk, Trinity.
Thank you, Joaquin and Tyler. When we return to College Press Box, we'll take a look at this past week in Longhorn sports and see what's ahead. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to College Press Box. Let's take a look at this past week in Longhorn sports. Texas has now won its 17th national championship and makes it 2 natties in a row for the men's swimming and diving team. They scored a total of 445.5 points to secure the national championship, finishing 29.5 points ahead of the second-place Florida Gators. Coach Bob Bowman now has his 3rd consecutive NCAA national championship, as the Longhorns were responsible for 2 of those and look to keep on adding.
Number 6 Texas Beach Volleyball hosted an invitational that featured championship-level competition. Texas splits opening day with a 4-1 loss against number 2 Stanford and ends with a 3-2 victory over number 1 UCLA, marking the program's first victory over a top-ranked opponent. On the final day of the invitational, Texas defeated number 3 USC and number 10 Long Beach State to close the tournament out strong. The Longhorns Longhorns had 2 top 3 wins in the tournament and improved to a 16-6 overall.
The Texas Instagram page teased the announcement and the surprise sure to deliver for the Longhorn faithful, as Colt McCoy joins a long list of Longhorn supremacy that have delivered the commencement address. He will speak at the 143rd commencement ceremony on Saturday, May 9th at Darrell K. Royal Stadium.
Now let's take a look at this week in Longhorn sports. Tuesday we have baseball versus Texas State at 6:30 p.m. on SEC Network Plus. Thursday the 2nd we have baseball at South Carolina SEC Network. Saturday the 4th we have softball at Alabama SEC Network Plus, and then Texas will play on Friday in the Final Four.
And that concludes this week's edition of College Press Box. Thank you for tuning in, and as always, please make sure to tune in to our other sports shows this week, including College Crossfire Wednesdays airing at 9 p.m. and the 1-0 Sports Show on Fridays at 11 a.m. Also, we invite you to follow our coverage on Instagram, X, TikTok, and YouTube at the handle TSTV Sports. Thank you to our executive producer, Kendall Unger, and all of our reporters in TSTV Sports. I'm Joaquin Alvarez, she's Trinitee Jason. Thank you for watching, and have a good night.